Welcome back to Master 79. Today we are taking on ielts speaking part 2 and part 3, topic number 40. Describe a place you visited that had been affected by air pollution. You will get the planning method, a full 2-minute model answer, and all 3 part 3 questions answered in full. One honest note before we start. Band 9, here is our own assessment against the public ielts band descriptors. It is not a certified examiner score, and our candidate, is an invented person read by a synthetic voice, so please copy her technique rather than her story. First, the format. The examiner hands you a card and a pencil. You get 1 minute to prepare and then you speak alone for between 1 and 2 minutes. The examiner will not help you and will not interrupt. 2 things decide your score here: whether you fill the time and whether you cover every bullet on the card. Here is the card exactly as it was given to us. 3 bullets to cover, and then 1 instruction beginning with the word explain. That final instruction is where most candidates lose marks because they describe the place and forget to say what actually happened to it. A quick word about the wording. We are showing this card exactly as we received it, including the parts that are not standard English. The second part 3 question reads, difference about pollution in the countryside and city. A real examiner would say, what is the difference between pollution in the countryside and in the city? Answer the question that was meant. Never correct the examiner out loud. Now the planning minute. 4 rules. 1. Pick a real place in 10 seconds. Any place at all. Indecision is what kills part 2. 2. Write nouns, not sentences. 4 to 6 words per bullet is plenty. 3. Put your best detail last because the final bullet is where the examiner is still listening. And 4. Plan a closing line before you start. A turn that stops dead loses you fluency marks. Here is what Mai actually wrote in her 60 seconds. Notice that there is not a single complete sentence anywhere on the page. 12 short notes, grouped under the 4 bullets from the card. That is all a plan needs to be. Now the long turn. Listen for 2 things: where each card bullet is covered, and how she gets from one to the next without ever announcing it. We will go through it in 5 pieces, and the full transcript is on screen as she speaks.
The place I'd like to describe is the Old Quarter in Hanoi, specifically the tangle of narrow lanes around Hang Bak and Hang Dao, right in the historic heart of the city. It's an area I know well, because my aunt has run a small fabric shop there for the best part of 30 years. I went back last November, which, as it happens, is the worst possible month to choose. That's when the farmers on the city's outskirts burn their rice straw after the harvest, and the smoke drifts in and settles under a lid of cool, still air. People there even have a name for it. They call it the season of the white sky. What struck me first was the visibility. From my aunt's balcony on the 4th floor, I can normally pick out the cathedral spire about a kilometre away. That morning it had simply dissolved into a kind of grey soup. The air had a faint, acrid smell, exhaust fumes from the motorbikes mixed with something sweeter and woodier from the burning straw. By mid-afternoon the sun was a pale disk you could look at directly without squinting. As for how the place was affected, it changed the way people behaved. Almost everyone on the street was wearing a mask, not because they were ill, but because of the air. My aunt kept her shop door closed, which, for a business that lives on passing trade, is a real sacrifice. My cousin's primary school cancelled outdoor sport for the whole week, and the tourists who normally make that neighbourhood so lively had thinned out noticeably. Looking back, what stays with me isn't the discomfort so much as the resignation. Everyone seemed to have accepted it as the price of living in a city that's growing faster than its infrastructure can cope with. It made me appreciate clean air in a way I never had before.
Let us check that against the clock. That long turn ran for 1 minute and 57 seconds, 321 words, at about 164 words per minute. That is inside the 2-minute limit with a little room to spare, and it is a pace you can actually copy. These numbers were measured from the audio you just heard, not estimated. Why does that answer sit at the top of the scale? 4 reasons. First, every bullet on the card is covered in order, without her ever announcing, "Now I will talk about." The signposting is invisible. Second, the detail is specific and sensory. A spy that vanishes. A pale disk of sun. Vague answers cap you at band 6. Third, the complex grammar arrives naturally. A non-defining relative clause. Affronted, what struck me first was a comparative faster than, and fourth, it ends on a deliberate closing line instead of trailing off when the time runs out. That brings us to part 3. This is a discussion, not a monologue. It lasts 4 to 5 minutes, and the questions turn abstract. Society, not you. Your answers should run roughly 40 to 70 seconds. Longer than part 1, shorter than part 2. And the shape that almost always works is this: a direct answer, a reason, an example, and then a qualification. Question 1. How much air pollution is there in your country? Here is the plan Mai runs in her head in about 2 seconds. Answer first. A lot but uneven. Then the evidence, dry season readings. Then a qualification, because the coast and the highlands are different. And finally the trend, monitoring is improving.
Quite a lot, I'm afraid, though it's very uneven. Air quality readings in the two big cities regularly slip into the unhealthy range during the dry season, and Hanoi in particular has a reputation for it. That said, I'd be wary of painting the whole country with the same brush. The coastal provinces and the highlands are a completely different story, and the trend isn't uniformly bleak. There's far more monitoring and public awareness now than there was even 5 years ago, which is usually the first step towards fixing anything.
Question 2, and this is the one with the odd grammar on the card. Difference about pollution in the countryside and city, and why. Here is the shape of the answer. Answer first, that it is a difference in kind, not in degree. Then the city, combustion, trapped by the buildings. Then the countryside, seasonal spikes and brick kilns. And then the why, which is density against enforcement.
There's a big difference, yes, but it's a difference in kind rather than simply in degree. Cities suffer from combustion. Millions of motorbikes, construction, dust generators. It's concentrated, and the buildings themselves trap it. The countryside is generally cleaner day to day, but it has its own seasonal spikes. Crop residue burning after the harvest, pesticide spraying, brick kilns. The underlying reason comes down to density and enforcement. Cities pack the sources together, but they're also policed, whereas rural emissions are diffuse and almost impossible to regulate.
Question 3. How can the government encourage people to keep their city clean? This is a policy question, and policy questions reward structure. Frame it as carrots and sticks. The sticks, fines, only work with visible enforcement. The carrots make the clean option the easy option, and the underrated one, publish the data live.
I split that into carrots and sticks. On the stick side, fines only work if enforcement is visible and consistent. Otherwise, people just treat them as an occasional cost of doing business. So I'd put more faith in the carrots, making the clean option the easy option. If public transport is frequent, air-conditioned and cheap, people will leave the motorbike at home without ever being lectured. Beyond that, the most underrated tool is information. Once cities started publishing real-time air quality data on people's phones, it stopped being an abstraction and became something you could watch. And once citizens can measure something, they start demanding it.
Let us bank the language. First, the phrases that made the description work. A tangle of narrow lanes, which beats many small streets, settles under a lid of still air, dissolved into a kind of grey soup, a metaphor rather than a stack of adjectives. A faint, acrid smell, where acrid means sharp and burning. A pale disk you could look at directly, had thinned out noticeably. Lives on passing trade. And the price of living in a city. Steal every one of these, but change the place. And second, the phrases that did the arguing in part 3 slip into the unhealthy range for measurements and readings, painting the whole country with the same brush, an idiom for overgeneralizing, a difference in kind rather than in degree, which is a high-value contrast frame. Carrots and sticks, treat them as a cost of doing business. Make the clean option the easy option. It stopped being an abstraction, and the trend isn't uniformly bleak, which is nicely hedged optimism. These transfer to almost any topic from traffic to education. 4 marks equally weighted at 25% each. Fluency and coherence. 2 minutes without fishing for words, and every card bullet covered in order. Lexical resource. Precise and natural. Acrid. Resignation. Passing trade. Idiom used but never forced. Grammatical range and accuracy. Relative clauses, fronting and comparatives, all under control at speed, and pronunciation, where I owe you an honest limitation. A synthetic voice cannot demonstrate that criterion at all. Record yourself instead. That is topic number 40. Here is your challenge. If this helped, subscribe to bmaster79 because the next card is already in production. Good luck and keep talking.